In this lecture, we are going to discuss about generalized measurement system. So in generalized measurement system, we normally represent different element of measuring instrument in the form of their functional block. For example, we are having a thermometer here and we know that we can use thermometer for measurement of temperature. The temperature will be sensed by this thermometer bulb. So this thermometer bulb will become a sensing element. Similarly, we know that with temperature mercury is going to rise here, and that will be related to temperature that we want to sense. So we can read the temperature in the form of rise of mercury in this capillary with the help of, or we can monitor the temperature with the help of this scale that we are having here. So this scale will become a monitoring element. Next, suppose we are having a pressure gauge. So again, in pressure gauge we will be having an element which will going to sense the pressure. So normally one of the element that we are having with pressure gauge is a diaphragm. So diaphragm will be like a disc, and when we apply pressure from one side, it will going to get deflected, and that deflection, that displacement we can measure, and it will be indication of pressure that we are having. So here this diaphragm becomes sensing element. Similarly, that displacement will be converted to the motion of this pointer, which will be again indication of the pressure. So now we can monitor the pressure with the help of motion of or movement of this pointer on this dial scale. So here this dial scale will become a monitoring element. So in this way, what we can have, as we are having a sensing element in thermometer in the form of thermometer bulb, similarly we are having a sensing element in the form of diaphragm in this pressure gauge, and also we are having a monitoring element, a scale on this thermometer, and also a scale on this pressure gauge. So what we can say here is, like, instead of specifying the specific element of measuring device, we can specify them in general in the form of their functionality. So that is what is the concept of generalized measuring system. Now let's see what are the different elements that we are having related to generalized measuring system. So first one is the primary sensing element, second one is the variable conversion element, and third one is the data presentation element. Now let's see what are these elements that we are having here. What are the different elements that we can have in these broad categories? So we will be having a primary sensing element first, that is going to sense the quantity that we want to measure, and this primary sensing element will consist of a sensing surface, like we discussed about the diaphragm or thermometer bulb. Then we will be having transducer also. So what sensing surface will going to do, it is going to sense this quantity and it is going to produce some output. Now that output may be in the form of electrical signal or may not be. So we know that most of the time the quantity that we measure, we need to process that on computer or to controller. So for that case we will be requiring an electrical signal. So maybe it is possible that the quantity that we are sensing, okay, with the help of sensing surface may not be a electrical quantity. So in order to convert that into electrical quantity, we will be having a transducer. So we can define transducer as an element which can convert one form of the energy into another form. So mostly in mechanical field, what we will be requiring is sensing of a quantity and then converting it into an electrical signal, and that we do by using this transducer element. Once we have got the electrical signal, it will be sent to a variable conversion element. So that variable conversion element, what it will do, we know that we have to send that electrical signal for control purpose. So that signal need to be in the digital form. So what variable conversion element like analog to digital converter will do, it will going to convert the analog form that we are going to get from the transducer into a digital form. So that will be done by analog to digital converter. Now that depends upon the various type of measuring instrument that we are using. Now the signal that is received from this variable conversion element will be sent to variable manipulation element. It may possible that the signal that we are getting is very low, so we need to amplify that. So for that we are having an amplifier. and that is going to happen at this stage, manipulation stage. So what we are doing, we are manipulating the quantity that we have sensed. So mostly it is a electrical quantity that we are going to get, and that we are trying to manipulate. So we will be having different types of element that can do that. So in order to increase the signal, we are having an amplifier. Similarly, it may possible that at sensing stage we got some noise apart from the quantity that we want to sense. So that noise also we need to remove before we send it to further processing. So that we can do by using a reduction of. So we will be having element that is going to reduce noise present in the signal that we are getting here. Similarly, it may possible that during conversion we may lost some information, or the signal that we are going to receive will be distorted. So again we need to have some restoration. So we will be again having different element that is going to restore that signal, because what we want actual value of this quantity to travel to the computer or to microcontroller, so that it can be used for control purpose. It may possible that the instrument that we are using for measurement is at some remote location. So we need data from it to the lab where we are actually sitting. So in that case, it may possible that we have to use this data transmission element. Like if we are having measuring device in satellite which is orbiting around Earth, and we are having a station where we are monitoring it at some location. So what we need data from that satellite to be transmitted to Earth at the laboratory where we are actually analyzing its data. And the last stage we are having is data presentation. So once data is reached, what we want it to monitor. Then it is possible that we want to record it for any further processing. Also, we can use that data for control purpose. So these are the basic element that you can find in any of the measuring instrument. We may have their sequence changed, that depends upon the type of measuring instrument and the quantity which we want to measure, or maybe some deletion of element. Again, it depends upon the type of measuring instrument that we are having. One more important thing is that these elements like variable conversion element and variable manipulation element, these elements together are called as a signal conditioning stage. Now let's take an example to understand the concept that we have learned. Consider this thermometer. So now let's define all those elements with respect to this thermometer. So now we will be having a primary sensing element, that will be this thermometer bulb, because the temperature that we want to measure will going to come in contact first with this thermometer bulb. So the quantity that we are trying to measure here is heat, and that will be sensed first by this thermometer bulb. Next we are having a variable conversion element. So here, since it is entirely a mechanical system, we are having thermometer bulb again acting as a variable conversion element, because it is going to transfer the heat from itself to the mercury that is present inside that bulb. Next thing is variable manipulation element. So we know that once the heat is transferred to mercury, mercury will try to expand, and it is going to do that with the help of capillary. So the capillary will act as a variable manipulation element here. Next we are having data transmission element. So in order to read the data, this data or the temperature will be of course the height of mercury in this capillary. The mercury will going to move through this capillary and will going to indicate the temperature. The capillary will become a data transmission element for this measuring device. Now in order to read the data, we will be having a data presentation element. So of course here the scale that we are having here will going to act as a monitoring element or data presentation element. Let's take another example, example of Bourdon tube pressure gauge. Now this pressure gauge, here how it will look like from outside, and here we are having internal arrangement or internal element that we are having inside this pressure gauge. Now this one consists of a Bourdon tube, which will be a elastic member, or you can say a flexible member, and it will be acting as a primary sensing element. So that tube we are having here, okay, this one is the tube. Now it is having two ends, one is this one and second one is this one. The first end, that is this one, will be open, and through this end we can send the fluid whose pressure we want to measure. The other end is called as a tip, which is a closed one, and it is connected with the adjustable linkage to this gear sector, and through that with this pinion, and that pinion is going to rotate this pointer, which will be indication of pressure. Depends upon the amount of pressure that we are having, and because of the change in shape or the cross sectional area, we will be having a deflection of this tip, and that deflection will be sent to this sector and pinion with the help of this adjustable link, and which is going to rotate this pointer. So deflection of this pointer is an indication of the pressure that we are having inside this tube, or the pressure of the fluid which is moving inside this tube. Now let's see and describe this pressure gauge in the form of generalized system. So again we will be having a primary sensing element, that will be Bourdon tube that we are having here. Okay, this tube will be Bourdon tube. It is going to sense the pressure of the fluid. Next we will be having a variable conversion element, and that element will be again a Bourdon tube, because it is converting the pressure of that fluid to deflection of this tip. So here we are converting a pressure into deflection of this tip. Next we will be having data transmission element. So this data or the deflection will be transmitted to the indicator with the help of this adjustable link. So this adjustable linkage will going to act as a data transmission element. Next we will be having variable manipulation element, and that will be this gearing arrangement. This sector gear and this pinion will going to act as a variable manipulation element, because the deflection that we are going to have here will be small, and that small deflection will be transferred to this gear, and this gear arrangement will going to enhance or amplify the displacement in the form of rotation of this pointer. Next is data presentation element. So here of course a data presentation element is the pointer. Now this pointer is going to indicate the pressure of fluid that is moving or that is inside the Bourdon tube, whose pressure we actually want to measure. So with this we'll end this lecture. See you in the next one.